In the previous video, I was basically just giving a breakdown of how and why our property Stokvel failed. But in this video, I give you the formula, a watertight constitution, how you should go about it to ensure that your property Stokvel, whenever you're looking to open it, or if you're already busy with it, how to make sure that it's watertight so that your common goal actually succeeds. Enjoy, and I hope you learned something. Cheers. When we talk about the constitution in a particular Stokvel, there are many considerations that you'll have to make. The first one is that you need to consult a legal representative, or consult an attorney, someone who knows the legality, so that you don't infringe on the rights of people within your particular Stokvel or property Stokvel or whatever conglomerate, cooperative, social investment club that you are building, right? And there are some common key components that need to exist in that particular constitution. So the first thing is that you need to basically have a name for that particular Stokvel. You need to basically, if you are now going into the realm of real estate and property, flipping properties, selling them off, renting them out and so on, it's good to have a logo, something that will represent you and basically be an identifier of your particular Stokvel, right? Then when you get into the crux of the constitution of the Stokvel itself, then there are key things that you can't leave out of basically the legalities or the rules and the conduct that is imminent according to your constitution, right? So basically you need to deal with the interpretation aspect. People within your Stokvel can't interpret things differently, and the constitution is there to clarify a lot of those challenges that may exist. So interpretation, making sure that people understand each and every term, making sure that people understand each and every concept, making sure that people interpret the constitution as a whole for what it means and its role in your Stokvel, your property Stokvel. Then you need to have definitions, also for clarity, also to create also to make sure that there's no ambiguity or vagueness. People understand exactly what is meant by a loan, exactly what is meant by a penalty, exactly what is meant by a contribution, exactly what is meant by a meeting, exactly what is meant by a particular role such as a chairperson, etc. Right? Then the third thing that needs to be in your constitution is basically the legalities. The legalities now speak to the name of your Stokvel. The legalities speak to what is the Stokvel, what does it fall under? Is it going to fall under a business? Is it going to fall under a cooperative? Is it going to fall under a trust? Is it going to fall under a social investment club with a Stokvel status, as was the case with our property Stokvel, right? It fell under a social investment club with a Stokvel status, right? And then also under the legalities, what's the overarching legislation? Right, so the constitution being the core one, and whatever financial management legislation may be applicable to social investment clubs, right? Not necessarily your FSCAs and all those things, but just now the on-surface legislation that is key, so that again you don't infringe on the rights of other people that are within your particular Stokvel, right? And then the objectives of the Stokvel, the objective being to create wealth, to bring about a form of financial security that will end up as financial freedom, right? To in our case, one of the key and fundamental objectives was to pay off existing bonds. And then another objective was to ensure that it goes for a particular term. So 3 years was the term. And then after that, to have another term with different goals and objectives around what we are pushing when it comes to this financial security and financial freedom in the long term. Then you must have your underarching goals that speak to now sharing information around finances, educating and empowering each other as members, having unity as members, having a common goal as members, ensuring that you follow the constitution. That can be an underarching goal or an overarching goal, right? In fact, following the constitution is an overarching goal, but others, such as making sure that you empower and equip each other around financial literacy matters, that's an underarching goal of the overall constitution, right? Then the next thing in your constitution will be the composition. Now with the composition, it speaks to now the structure. So what roles and responsibilities are played and by whom? Who is the chairperson? How is the chairperson voted in? And how do they resign? What are their key roles and activities that they need to make sure that they perform to make sure that the Stokvel itself is running and it runs accordingly, right? Then your secretary, your treasurer, and your general members. So each person must know their roles, such as the attendance of meetings, who is the scribe, who basically does what, the treasurer, making sure that the spreadsheet is intact and people are paying in accordance, right? The chairperson chairing the meeting and ensuring that everyone follows the constitution and what is meant by it and what it entails overall, right? Then, of course, it's issues of the meetings themselves. How will the meetings be held? Where will the meetings be held? On which platform? COVID, for us, did a number on us, because originally how the Stokvel operated is that one member would host every single month. And at a time when we had 24 members, then 2 members would actually share and host at one venue, right? And then we'd contribute money for the lunch at that particular premises or that particular property or that person's home, whatever hosting venue is used for that particular purpose. So that's one, right? And then the meetings, how long will they be? Who's responsible for what in the meetings? Issues of voting, issues of forming a quorum, all those elements should be incorporated into your constitution for your property Stokvel, right? And then you get into the most important and crux of your property Stokvel, this being now the financial aspects. Under the financial aspects, you discuss issues of contribution. For example, in our property Stokvel, the contribution was 2,500 per member, right? Then because of the workings of your particular Stokvel, the mechanisms in which you generate funds will differ. So those mechanisms must be stipulated under this particular section of the constitution, right? In other words, the interest that accumulates from the loaning of monies. All right, in our property Stokvel, monies were loaned to individual members, and then you decided what you do with that money. But at the end of the day, in a month's time, you would need to bring back the interest plus the contribution. Or you can carry over the contribution till the 3rd month, but each month paying the interest for the principal amount that you basically borrowed from the Stokvel itself, right? From the Stokvel itself. So that needs to be clearly stated around the workings financially, right? How is money loaned out? What's the contribution? What are the penalties and what are the terms and conditions for those particular penalties? What is the envisaged outcome from a financial point of view, looking at now the goals that you've set, right? Because there were 2 goals that were critical at the end of the day for us in our Stokvel. One was the paying off of bonds, and the second one was the even distribution of monies generated. So let's say we generated 2 million, right? Then out of that 2 million, 3 members would get 500,000, 500,000, 500,000 paid into their bonds directly. Then the other 500,000 would be shared around the 9 members equally so, right? This is now to incentivize members and to ensure that they stick it out until the complete term that you guys have decided upon. In our case, it was 3 years that we had basically decided upon, right? Then the next aspect, which is equally important, is the conditions that constitute as a breach of your constitution within your Stokvel. So you need to come up with all the conditions. So a breaching would be not contributing accordingly on a monthly basis, right? Not paying the interest, right? Not paying the applicable penalties, right? And what are the consequences when a person breaches those particular terms? Not attending a meeting. All those aspects are then discussed in the breach section of your constitution. Then the other element that needs to be in your constitution after the breach will be dissolution, right? Under what circumstances is the constitution null and void? Which is the reason our constitution basically collapsed, our Stokvel, pardon me, which is the reason why our Stokvel basically collapsed. It was literally because of these particular terms that we put in to the constitution when it comes to dissolution of the constitution and the Stokvel as a whole, right? We just went in blindly, and this is the part where we're actually meant to consult better when it comes to the legal minds that we consulted, because under this section we basically had a clause that said that at any point in the meeting, so long as there's a majority, the constitution can be amended, can be appealed, a decision can be appealed, or the constitution as a whole can be disbanded, done away with, nullified, right? And I think that's the main reason why our Stokvel, in fact, I don't think it is. It is the main reason why our Stokvel basically got disbanded and the overarching goals were never achieved. Because for one, unfortunately, we're dealing with people. So emotions will always come to the forefront. Not only emotions, but your personal management of your finances will also come to the forefront. So when you face challenges and you don't speak until the end of the actual Stokvel, then obviously you are likely to take advantage of this particular clause, right? And that's what caused the collapse. So I was one proponent for continuing with the constitution as is and basically reaching the goals and making sure that we win with this particular objectives that we've set. But of course, the majority voted otherwise, which of course saddens me in the sense that they could have raised their issues earlier on. So it's also important that the people within your Stokvel understand what you are actually gunning for. They understand the overall vision. They understand issues of sacrifice. They understand issues of the impact that one decision can have over another. So under the dissolution of the constitution and the Stokvel, I would say make sure you do the necessary research to the T so that your constitution doesn't collapse as a result of you not putting proper caveats in place and proper provisos in place in this particular section of your constitution. I think that aspect is actually pretty key. Let me have a glass of water. Right? Then, moving away from the issues of dissolution, there are plenty other points that you can put in. I think the best way is for me to just put each section as I discuss it on the screen as well, so that it makes better sense for you as you are listening, right? Then there's the issue of a death of a family member. So or death of a member, not family member, death of a member. Then you'll have conditions there as well. One condition, for example, that we had is that if I pass away, my brother can't come and just replace me as a member within the Stokvel. That's one of the conditions, right? Secondly, the beneficiaries of that member, depending on whether they had benefited in year 1, year 2, then they pass away in year 3, whilst the remaining members haven't benefited, depending on such circumstances and conditions, then the beneficiaries would then basically benefit, right? It could also be an issue of if they pass away without benefiting, then some of their contributions will be calculated, not some, but their contributions will be calculated based on the money that they brought in and how the time value of money works and how if they had benefited earlier, how much they would have gotten. All those calculations will be done, and then basically the beneficiaries will then get that particular benefit, right? If they had benefited and passed away, then as a Stokvel we'd be able to claim against basically the estate of the deceased. So those are some of the conditions that you put in when it comes to the death of a member, because we're in the real world, we're dealing with the real things, and death is inevitable. It's basically two things in life that are guaranteed: birth and death, right? Everything else comes with change, adaptations, and other circumstances, but birth and death are guaranteed, and of course change in and of itself is also guaranteed, right? In your constitution also, you must share all the conditions and limitations that may exist in your Stokvel. This is the section where you would put all those limitations that come forth in the Stokvel, and then you need to do your utmost best to overcome all of those conditions. You need to do your utmost best to ensure that you overcome all of those limitations, so that as the years progress, then you don't end up like ours where it collapsed. Instead, you end up building and moving into another phase where now the property Stokvel journey progresses, right? The journey itself progresses. And of course, the amendments to the Stokvel will be a section as well. And of course, the whole constitution. There will be a clause around the whole constitution. So that's basically now how to have a property Stokvel that works. You must make sure that it's watertight. You must make sure that you deal with all of those conditions. You must make sure that everything has a paper trail. Everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. Everyone is committed to the overall goals. And you have to also respect people's decisions if they do want to step out because they are either uncomfortable or it's no longer working for them and things have changed. Though I would urge you, if you are facing challenges along this journey, because it is a commitment after all, just communicate those challenges earlier, and then we can see or you can see basically within your Stokvel how you make the necessary adjustments. How myself and the chairperson basically formed this constitution, right? We looked at various constitutions for different types of Stokvels, and we found around 3 or 4 on the internet that spoke specifically to properties and the acquiring of properties as a conglomerate of sorts, which is being a Stokvel. Then we took what worked for us and we took the things that don't work for us out, and we disregarded those things, right? And then we formed this constitution. We could have done better. We could have put in more time and effort, though we did put in a lot of time into it. We could have put in more time and effort. We could have consulted better. And right now we'd be sitting in a different, I'd be discussing something different altogether, right? But still empowering you as best as I know how, right? But some of the principles that I've taken from being a part of Stokvels, and mainly this property Stokvel, number 1 is that it's okay to come together, try to build, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, right? Number 2, take all that you can take. In other words, the lessons that you can take from the journey of the property Stokvel and learn what you can learn from that, and then possibly your journey moving forward will be better, right? Like myself and my wife, we are now doing something differently, right? We have used those core principles of the Stokvel to do something differently that then benefits us in the long run, and we are able to benefit our family lineage in the long run, right? Then number 3, allow people to be themselves in the Stokvel. Don't try to change people. Don't try to alter their personalities. It's not your responsibility, right? You can empower, you can equip, you can assist, but don't try to change people, right? Then number 4, build, and make sure that there isn't any animosity when things do not work out, right? Learn, build, and make sure that there aren't any grudges against the people that were a part of the Stokvel and the thing that you were trying to build. And then if it didn't work out, it didn't work out, right? And then number 5 is subscribe, like, share this video. Subscribe, like, share this video, and press the notification bell so that you can learn more from me in the future. Otherwise, everything that you've learned, you implement accordingly, please. It starts with you. If you are interested in getting the actual job constitution, I've put it in the description. If it doesn't work for you, you can email me, 𝐌𝐮𝐬𝐤@gmail.com, 𝐌𝐮𝐬𝐤@itstartswithyou.co.za. You make your choice and I'll email you the draft. And hopefully, as the future generation, we can build a web that actually grows us as the Black nation. It starts with you. Cheers, guys.